That guy needs a lot of votes.
Never seen him drive one.
Just in case. But he's kind of religious. Maybe he was thinking biblically he needed to.
The end of times are coming.
Yeah. Go 2 by 2, he'd have enough for everybody.
Yeah.
The new ark.
We need an ark again, but then we can put those structures together.
That would be what he would do,
Yes,
too,
thanks.
honest to God.
I don't have a gavel, but let's call the meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for being here with us tonight. Nice to see you all here to take in the meeting. Next item is roll call. There's no board members in attendance, all here except for board member Elvejum. And with that, I would entertain a motion for approval of the agenda, and I don't have any changes or additions.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Scott, second by Bob Woods. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Next we have Mustang Spirit Recognition. I will call on Mr. Nelson.
All right. Mr. Strum, would you come up here with me, please? And I'm kind of speaking on behalf of both the elementary and the high school, but we would like to recognize Deputy Strum. Thank you. For lots of reasons. He's built a lot of positive connections with students in our district, teaching DARE to the, the 2nd, 4th, and 6th grade, right? And then high school, a lot of students he's built positive connections with. Instead of hearing me ramble, I'm going to read something that someone sent me about you. Mora Schools is simply a better place because of Deputy Justin Strum. His enthusiasm and genuine concern for kids is felt by all who work with him. Some students only experience police contact in negative situations. Justin is able to take away the negative stereotypes and show kids that we are all human, especially police officers. His concern for students is evident, and his connections are real. Last summer, Deputy Justin joined the Mora Summer School students and provided priceless connection times. He led several engaging discussions with students regarding roadblocks and making good choices. He also bonded with students during physical education as well. Deputy Strum is truly here to protect and serve. His actions prove his beliefs as he continuously makes connections with kids, supporting their futures. He knows that relationships now can prevent poor choices later. Mora students, staff, and the community are lucky to have him working in our school. Thanks, Deputy Strum. Thank you.
Anything you'd like to say, Justin? Otherwise,
No, I thank everybody. I really like this opportunity to spend some time with our kids. I've really enjoyed the last year and a half being a school resource officer, and I hope it continues.
And I just want to add, going along with that, I was standing next to a child at dismissal. You were out there. And it's a little kid who struggles. And he's like, "There's my friend, there's my friend." And I'm like, "Ooh, what friend?" And he kept pointing, and I'm like, "What do you mean, the deputy?" And he goes, "Yeah, that's my friend." I mean, so if you think about how low that goes, I mean, I think he was a 1st grader. And we're standing there in the bus line, and, there's his friend, and he got so excited. And, so it,
well, that shows a real level of comfort with you in calling you.
I haven't even taught him
Friend.
here yet.
Well, we hope the program is able to continue, or that the money continues to be there to fund it. And thank you for all that you do, the connections you make, and covering the bases.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. You guys have a good meeting.
Later. So next for Mustang Spirit.
the next one is also on behalf of both programs. So Darcy Claw, we wanted to recognize her. As you know, she's our back. And some of the words I put in here: organized, knowledgeable, collaborative, approachable, thorough, detailed. I mean, those are just some of the words I would use to describe the job that she does. her husband would say she's over the top on what she does for this job. I'm not sure she sleeps much. She reaches out to a lot of different resources that she has. She has brought a level of expertise to this job. She brings us the data. I mean, I could just go on and on. So she's just really done an outstanding job. Our testing season, Mr. Nelson, so smoothly
Very smooth.
executed, all year long, actually. So we just feel very fortunate. She takes that worry off our plates. I think we all feel very confident that we don't kind of have to worry about that. She's got that, and so we just really appreciate it. Thanks. Anyway.
Puts the time in on the front end so that she's prepared and we don't have glitches. We
Yeah.
appreciate
And
that.
I have something I'd like to read concerning Mrs. Quall. Oh, sorry about that. Throughout the course of the year, and this is Mrs. Quall's first year as our DAC, and throughout the course of the year, we've met a number of times. She gets updates probably every 2 or 3 weeks on assessment updates, and it's not just the MCAs, but it's also all of the other side assessments. It's all of the, help me out here with some of the other ones. And there's some groups that are as small as 2 and 3 kids, and there's some groups that are as big as an entire grade level. One of her stressors this year has been to make sure that all security is followed, that all of our staff is trained. Well, lo and behold, we had a Department of Education investigator or supervisor, I'll read his exact title, that came in on April 9th, and this was his response to coming in, and I believe he was with you for a couple of hours, and then checking on test protocols, checking on making sure that tests were locked up where they were supposed to be, making sure that people were signing for all the things that they were supposed to sign for. This one's not quite as long as Mr. Nelson's, but I'll read it anyways. As required by Minnesota State Statute 120B.30, the Minnesota Department of Education is responsible for maintaining the integrity of the Minnesota assessments. In that role, department staff visits sites as an overall strategy to improve the administration of the Minnesota assessments. On April 9th, 2019, a representative from HUMRR00 on behalf of the Minnesota Department of Education visited Mora Elementary School to observe administration of the 3rd grade MCA reading assessment. All test security procedures and protocols appeared to be in place during assessment administration. 3 long hours worth of prep. Staff encountered during the site visit were very helpful, and test administration was very efficient. Thank you for your overall support and implementation of test security protocols and procedures. Jeff Holtz, Test Security and Data Integrity Coordinator for the Minnesota Department of Education. So it's not just that we feel comfortable that Darcy is doing everything, but now we have had somebody from the Department of Education come out and give us a statement that says, yes, everything is being done the way that it's supposed to be done here. So thank you so much, Darcy, for helping us with that.
And that was a lot of stress for her. They came in asking for us, and she couldn't find us finally. She's like, okay, what do you need? So, they wanted you. Well, thank you on behalf of the board.
And I don't think it's any secret that when you assumed this role, you knew you were filling big shoes too. And I mean, it's like smooth transition. Life goes on, and you're doing a fantastic job. Like, we had anything to worry about. So, thank you. All right. Any other Mustang spirit? If not, we will move on then to our presentation of the Mora Schools rebranding. And Jody is here. Randy, Nick, you want to introduce the presentation or where we're going?
We've been going through this process for a long time. If
Yes.
you remember that March, we had some updates, and we've taken a lot of feedback, had a numerous amount of meetings, and Jody has done a great job taking that feedback and implementing into the presentation today. So.
I want to kind of reiterate, this is not something that we just jumped into. I was kind of looking back at my calendar. We first kind of officially started meeting, talking about this in September, October of this school year. And then I know we've been bringing it up in casual conversations about trying to become united and how do we present ourselves that way for the last 2 or 3 years. So Excited for you to see what we have tonight, if any of the technology works correctly. And Jody will lead you through kind of what she's done, and hopefully at the end you'll see a good product and have some discussion about that.
All right.
Think we're ready.
Right, let's see, where we all stand. Well,
You can go right up front, Jody.
all right. Hello, everyone. I'm here to give you an update. We don't have, in terms of visuals, if you were here the last time, we don't have significantly different things to look at than before, but just more kind of evolving. We've done a lot of iterations on the horse logo, for example, and then also been looking at some key messaging. So just to bring you up to speed on where we're at with all of that. And for those of you that did see this 2 months ago, I'll be fresh and new. So. We'll be talking about the brand personality, positioning, key messaging, which is the first time we'll be looking at as a group here, and then the updated logo family, showing sample brand applications and how that all is brought to life, and the next steps. Brand personality, we talked about this one before, but I want to emphasize a little bit more about how this comes to you. So in our discovery and insight gathering process and through the surveys that we took of the community, we identified these 4 adjectives as good, strong characteristics of the Mora Public Schools brand. Strong, proud, caring, and committed. And those are also aligned with when you think about a Mustang. We're looking for some of those alignments too, with a Mustang and the spirit of a Mustang. What could we kind of tie in and connect with that is also true and authentic to ourselves. So the brand personality guides the visual identity that we create as well as the key messaging that we draft, but also comes to life through any kind of expression or interaction that anybody has with the brand. So as we start to roll this out, we'll be talking with the committee about how that kind of comes to life through just even interactions that the teachers have with students and with parents. And so again, these are true and authentic, and they were being pulled from examples of things that are already happening within the school. So again, in the surveys we were getting many comments about teachers going above and beyond and going the extra mile, and they really care about my child. We're getting feedback again and again. So this is all true, but it is also something that going forward, the staff and faculty can keep in mind that there are opportunities that present themselves where these could kind of be brought to life even more, just looking for opportunities to show that commitment and that level of caring, for example. And the Mustang Spirit recognition was a great, inspiring example of that with what everybody was doing, that are really living and breathing these 4 characteristics on a daily basis. So the positioning statement, which we also reviewed the last time, it's more of an internal tool to kind of level set everyone on basically articulating as concisely as possible who we are and what we do and what we offer, and maybe what in that is differentiating from other area schools, since we do have open enrollment. So how do we differentiate ourselves? And this is not external facing, meaning this language does not appear on the website or would not to any parents or prospective students, but it's just to help guide us as we develop the visual identity and the key messaging. So within an engaged and connected community, Mora Public Schools supports its students' individual needs and helps them succeed through its strong academic programs, range of support systems, and breadth of activities and programs. Mora Public Schools sees the potential in all its students and supports them individually as they develop and grow. Its robust offerings allow each and every student to develop his or her own unique gifts, talents, and strengths. So we use that as a guide in drafting the key messaging. So key messaging is basically a concise way to articulate those points of difference and reflect your brand personality in something that can be replicated and repurposed across different materials. So whether it's on the website, or if maybe there's a brochure about Mora Public Schools, or even you could pull from key messaging a kind of a 10-second elevator speech if somebody meets somebody somewhere on with Mora Public Schools. Hey, we're exploring, engaging, and empowering our students for success, for example.
So it's guided by the positioning statement and the brand personality. And the result is very distinctive messaging that helps separate you from competing schools in the area and communicates your values and your purpose in a very clear, concise way. So the Mora key messaging is closely tied to our tagline, you'll see, and supports a cohesive brand expression on all fronts. So given that our tagline is exploring, engaging, and empowering, we're playing off that and breaking down our key points of difference on those 3 fronts. So here's a look at key messaging, and I'll read it out loud. At Mora Public Schools, our entire district is committed to the development of the whole student, intellectual, physical, emotional, and spiritual. From the teachers, staff, and volunteers to the coaches, administration, and students themselves, all open a world of possibilities for each Mora Public School student by focusing their efforts in these 3 areas. Exploring. We boldly follow our curiosity in any direction, whether guided by one mentor or adventuring with like-minded Mustangs. We search for answers and discover our passions in the process. Engaging. We create and support a culture of connection. Throughout our schools, Mustangs of every generation contribute their time and talents to developing each student's individual interests, gifts, and strengths. Empowering. We maximize every opportunity for students to grow and increase their confidence. By offering an array of enrichment, occupational, and remedial courses, we meet Mustangs where they are and transport them to where they want to go. Exploring, engaging, empowering, Mustang strong. So you see how that all comes together, and then as you start to see the logo and that tagline, exploring, engaging, empowering, it's all a cohesive message across the board. An updated logo family. Is that me or you? All right. This doesn't look that different. We've been tweaking the M in Mora. Our new full figure voice. Running, very spirited, strong, proud. A little bit difficult to convey caring, but we've got that in other areas. Another version, so we have the running horse full figure. We have this head, which is derived from that full figure, and then we also have a profile head that you'll see. So the idea is that you're going to have this larger logo family. So there might be some logos identified as the primary logos that would be used most often, especially high-profile applications. But you need to have that flexibility across everything when it comes to sports or merchandise and different materials, that you have a system that flexes and you're able to use different elements, but yet it all works as a cohesive family. This, we covered it at the last meeting, but the Mora M is kind of hidden there in your name. Profile view. Again, just different versions that can be used in different applications. With or without the tagline, lockup. Here's another secondary logo treatments that can be used if you start thinking about hats and shirts and just simple areas around the building where you wouldn't want necessarily the fuller logo. There are just more opportunities to have this fuller fleshed out system. Stationery, dated. Here's an example of letterhead. So we have district office, high school, and elementary school addresses and contact information, all using the same letterhead. Here's an example of business card, incorporating our tagline on both envelopes. And then just an example of how we could bring that identity to life in environmental capacities here with some signage. This is often a big component, especially for school districts, is what does that merch look like? What do the uniforms look like and the apparel? So we did some explorations around that. Again, none of these are set in stone. They're just kind of idea generators for when that time comes for you to be blowing it out. And then we also are going to have a section, once we develop the brand guidelines, speaking to when do you need to use exactly the Mustang logo lockups that as they are, or when can you do something like this? And that line is kind of like if it's an official school uniform or shirt or apparel that a teacher is wearing versus something that is more about, you know, spirit and kind of supporting the school. It doesn't necessarily have to be the logo every single time. It just needs to have some consistency. So that's why you're seeing here some of the text is different and isn't necessarily the word mark. And here's an example of how it all comes together. And that is where we're at with the visual identity. And then next steps would be providing final design files to the district to go ahead and start printing the stationery. We have a signature, e-signature coming out for everybody. Digital letterhead as well as the printed, that will be a Google Doc template. And then we're also scoped for 3 8.5 by 11 flyer templates. We identified very early on a need for that. Just 3 different kind of designs that staff use to create various flyers, and then a postcard template. And then when that work is completed, and some of it will be putting together the brand style guide as we're doing these things, but in the end, you have a brand style guide that helps guide different vendors, anybody that's looking to do any more public schools merchandise or marketing materials, that helps guide them to the do's and don'ts of the logo family usage, and design layouts and the courses, kind of what to do and not to do in terms of stretching and squeezing and rotating and putting things on top of busier backgrounds as well. So it's all just kind of layout and brand guidelines. That would include the key messaging, brand personality, as well as all the visual identity assets. And that is it.
So that guide then will be the guide that everybody uses, the tool that they use when ordering or before decisions get
Yeah,
made.
because Jody, she talked about it with us in a separate meeting, but, you know, the brand style guide may have 40 different examples out of the 700 different possibilities. So that will guide us in, we'll compile the justifications for everything and guide us for the future.
So it'll be user-friendly or a good tool for anybody that's making decisions, whether it be uniforms or gear of any kind or stationery.
Yep.
And like
Anybody
Randy-
else have any comments? Craig, would you like to say something?
Like Randy said, there's mix and match of a multitude of those different types of profiles for the horses, for the heads, and also the mirrored piece, if they want the horse on the other side versus the left side versus the right side, and the different components that they can use. And then the one that said Mustang Strong, that could be Mustang football, it could be Mustang tennis, it could be whatever, however they want to. But the basic M that we have, and then it would be narrowed down to the blue, white, gray, and black, or some types of with black trim types of things. You can see on some of those other components, it's okay to have black. It's not that black is outlawed or anything like that. But trying to make sure that everything that you see is going to have the components from that, and I don't know how many there are, 30 or whatever, that can yield up to 700 different mix and match, plus some additional personalized type of things for sport gear that would include, like I said, the Mustang football or tennis or baseball or whatever it is that they'd like to do.
And after tonight, we'll start setting up communication committee meetings and meetings with staff to go through what has to be in that brand style guide, what are your must-haves, so that we can make sure we meet as many as we can.
Appreciate that. That's just so nice to know that the communications committee is just immersed in this, and well, if your work isn't done, maybe never will be done, but.
Jody has been so patient. I don't know how many times we've sent things back with, we don't like this line there, we want this curve softened a little bit, we want this piece done, this has got that, I don't know, hundreds of communications back and forth. She's been very, very patient with us.
Jody's email, when I type in Jody, overtook Jody K's or Jody Hacker. So when I type in Jody to email the Mars director, it comes up Jody X.
And we don't have any students here, but student council, have they been involved in this? But for the purposes of bringing this discussion to a close, any comments coming from the student council?
I did not meet with them in regards to the wording that explained the three, exploring, engaging, empowering. But we went through the designs, the colors, with some students in my office on student council. We did present to student council 2 different times, and overall the student council was they liked it a lot. They liked
They're
the
on board
consistency.
and don't have any
They gave us a lot of
recommendations
feedback.
or objections?
They gave us a lot of feedback initially to kind of change up that full body horse.
Yeah, it's amazing how when people look at it from different groups, their comments, their critiques were very similar. The one that I was listening to most was the students, and they were picking out the exact same things the adult groups were noticing too. And so we kind of showed it to them first before we went to the adults, so that they could actually help drive it a little bit faster. So a lot of the little tweaks they noticed first and gave some suggestions right away. So I'm excited. I get the impression that they're excited. When I talked with some individuals, they gave really positive feedback.
Good enough.
Molly will be here later, so
Mhm.
once she gives her report, she can have their feedback as well.
Sure.
How are we doing on this with the gym project? Are we?
We're not in the design phase yet, so
Okay.
with the gym flooring, and he knows this is coming, so we have the dates booked and everything. As soon as we get the PDFs or
Oh
the
my
file,
gosh.
we'll
So you're saying then that there's the likelihood is there that we can use the new?
Oh, absolutely. Yep, that's the intent.
Okay, I thought I might just miss that
Yeah,
window
I
of
figured we'd
opportunity.
miss that
So
window.
that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, I know, that's good news. Okay. Well, Jody, thank you. And yeah, so you have risen, you've been elevated in more schools.
Great.
Order of
It's
importance.
truly been a pleasure, and like I said, just hearing those Mustang Spirit recognitions, it feels good to know that we landed on a place that it is true and
It's pretty
authentic.
natural.
And representing the school, we're not making any claims that aren't valid, and it's just a really true expression of who we are and what we're doing.
Thank you for all of your work and collaboration with these people on the communications committee. And so, any other comments? Anybody have anything to add or questions before we move on? Well, we are considering approval. Is there anybody prepared to make a motion?
I make a motion to consider approval or to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Bob Woods, second by Bob Jensen. Any further discussion? So we have a motion then to approve the Mustang logo redesign for Mora Schools rebranding. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion passes unanimously. Exciting. Thank you, everybody. All right. We will move on then to Sparks' presentation on alternative learning days.
Lights on.
It's up here, yeah, so we can just keep going. Randy's gonna get that pulled up. I gave you the actual paper version of the document. And then in the presentation, I'll just kind of go over each section of that document. The plan is that we'll give you the information tonight. For the next month, you can ask questions, read through it, look at what other districts are doing, search out information for yourselves if you want to, and then next month, then we would move to approve it. So that would be the plan.
Makes sense?
Mr. Hall?
We're getting there.
Okay.
Yeah, almost there. All right.
So what started this adventure was, of course, the winter that we had. And when Randy and I went to the principal conference in February, of course, a lot of districts were talking about this because we had just come through January, then we were in February, and it was a very odd winter. A lot of districts were already transitioning over to this and had tried it last year. They had executed some of these this year. So when we went to that conference, I went to the breakout session for it, and it was packed. Everyone wants to learn about this now because they want to utilize this type of a plan. So then Randy and I started talking, kind of sleuthing around, asking questions. I started doing a lot of research, went to the statute, attended some seminars, went to other districts. There's all kinds of information now on other districts' websites on how they do it. And so then I just started piecing this together and then came to Mr. Schultz and said, hey, you know, what do you think? So that's when we started down this path. So the first thing is to look at the statute. What does law say about e-learning? So e-learning means a day of school where school is offered full access to online instruction provided by students, individual teachers, and it's due to weather-related closures. Specifically, e-learning is related to weather. A school district, charter school that chooses to have e-learning days may have up to 5 in any given school year. And an e-learning day is counted as a day of instruction included in the hours under this. E in e-learning stands for emergencies. I assumed it was electronic, I think most people do, but it really stands for emergency type learning when you're not at school and something has happened to close down the school. So, for a plan for e-learning, there are must-haves from, as directed from MDE in addition to the statute. So it must be in consultation with teachers, must be approved by the school board, must include something for students without sufficient access to internet, must notify parent students at the beginning of the school year and then prior to an e-learning day taking place, must have teachers accessible by phone or online during normal school hours. And so it is just a locally developed and approved and adopted plan. It does not get sent into the state. So it's just, we can do this as much Mora-ized as we want, but it does have to follow some of these must-haves. So what have we done so far? Like I said, I did a lot of research up front, kind of put together a skeleton framework based on what I learned and what I know most school districts are kind of doing. And then I took it to administration and teacher union representation. We molded all over, kind of made some tweaks to it. Then I took it to 2 elementary teacher meetings, one in the morning, one in the afternoon, to try to catch as many teachers as I could. And then I also did the same thing with the high school. And through that process, actually, we got a lot of really good feedback from the teachers. And I implemented and put those things in the plan with the consensus. And then brought it back to administration and said, okay, now we have this. Now here's some changes that the teachers wanted. We kind of decided on we made some concessions a little bit. And then that's what you're going to see tonight. So it's gone through this whole process of all these people having input. So what is an e-learning day? So for us, it would mean a day when students are physically not at school and we've been closed due to weather. The instruction and communication would happen online for others, while some would have some kind of paper, pencil version or an activity or project-based learning at home. Teachers are available to provide assistance, email and phone, and we could do up to 5 in any given year due to any weather-related cancellations. And then what are the goals for us? Well, providing that flexibility of that delivery of instruction for minimal disruption to our calendar. Gives 6th through 12th grade students the opportunity to practice the kind of online experience they're going to have in their future, either in the workplace or in college. Enable students to apply becoming increasingly responsible for their learning. We talk about that release of responsibility to students, and this would be a piece of them becoming more responsible for their learning. And then just maximizing our investment in that one-to-one technology piece. We have it. We might as well use it for some things like this. Next one. And then how will we notify families? Well, we have to do it at the beginning and then prior to it taking place. So we would include it in the elementary and high school handbook, so when you go to approve those a little later, this goes through, we'll include that. District website, we'll talk about it at open houses, at conferences, right prior to it happening, when Mr. Nelson sends out his messages. I always tease him about that, his lovely voice. Then he'll include that in the message too, that it's an e-learning day, we're closed due to snow, you know, whatever. He'll include that in the message, and then we'll put it on the website. If you have noticed on the news, the ticker, when schools are closed, it says, you know, Mora Public Schools closed, e-learning day. So it would say that on that ticker too. So how does it work? So K through 5th grade students would have work assigned by their teachers. They don't have the one-to-one, they don't have that technology piece. So many schools are preparing some kind of a bingo or some kind of a chart that has multiple different activities on it for the different, like PE, art, they include those on there too. Some learning activities. It might say things like do a recipe with your mom. So it'll have some authentic types of experiences you can do at home, and then some actual work type things. And then 6 through 12, of course, they have their one-to-ones. So teachers will be able to push out work at Schoology and through Google Classroom. They'll be able to push that out that way. Then students with special circumstances, IEPs, 504s, those kinds of things, their case managers will work in conjunction with their homeroom teachers to make sure that those kids have what they need. And then they would be checking in with their kids and families on those days. Teachers would be available 9:30 to 3. We would have a common prep at the beginning of the day for teachers. So all teachers would have at the beginning of the day their prep, and then families could count on from 9:30 to 3 that their teachers would be available. Did you just give her popcorn?
And that common prep that would also allow teachers then to do that prep and have everything ready so when students log on at 9:30, their assignments are up and everything is ready.
Yeah. And then due dates for work completed, that would be dependent on the project or whatever piece is going home for kids. Maybe they are in the middle of a project, it's not due for 2 weeks, so that's kind of teacher driven. But regardless of any of that, they would have up to 5 calendar days to make up their work. Because we know some families, no matter what, they have a tough time executing work at home and turning it in. So it just gives those families and teachers an ability to connect after that closure day to make sure that they get that in.
Can you back up to the comment you made about prep time? I don't think it was up there
Oh.
spelled out. But what did you say? I was distracted. I'm sorry. I don't know why.
It's probably the popcorn.
Lost me for just
And only
30
one
seconds.
person
I know. I'm like, oh, this looks like enough to share at the table. Sorry, Brenda.
So one of the things we talked about were teachers have different preps throughout the day. In the elementary and the high school, and they're all over the place. So how can families just plan on these hours for that day teachers are available? So then we had a discussion about having up front a common prep for all teachers. So they get ready for their day, that's all front loaded, and then they're just available the rest of the day. And so that was decided that that would be best for families, for us not to have those all throughout the day. Yeah, that would be just too hard for planning. Thank you. So if the family chooses not to participate, they say, you know what, we're not doing that. Well, that's okay. They just don't have to. Their child gets marked absent. They'll be marked excused absence. We don't want it to go unexcused and be some kind of a county issue due to the family or the parents just making that decision for their child, especially if it's a smaller child. So it would go excused.
And that is a requirement that we do take attendance on those days.
Yeah. Internet access, parents and students in 6th through 12th grades must inform teachers if there's no internet access or limited access at home. But this would be a discussion that teachers would start having as soon as we'd start informing parents and start talking to kids about it. We would start asking about that access and if there needs to be some kind of modifications for families or some kind of different way that we can get work to families, and we would have to cross that bridge. We know that if we ask families in September, they could have access, and then they could not have it the day before. So, you know, that we just have to adjust our instruction. That's why giving that 5 days after is important too, so you're not penalizing those families they end up not having access that day. So administrators, we would be available just like teachers. We'd be actively interacting and supporting with teachers and parents as needed, ensuring that it's in the student handbooks, sending out those automated phone and email messages, just that notification of families. And then our big job would be monitoring that teacher attendance and that compliance with e-learning. What did it look like for our teachers and our kids, and was it successful? So just making sure that that compliance piece is there and everybody's doing their job on those days. And then the teachers are responsible for, and this is a teacher-driven, that's why it's so important to include the teachers in this discussion, because a lot of this is on them. So familiarizing students with however they're going to deliver that instruction the day, so doing that before an e-learning takes place. Collaborating to ensure that workload is appropriate. We don't want to overload kids and families on that day. Posting assignments by 9 o'clock. Oh, I think that should say 9:30 actually.
Yeah.
So I'll change this, that should say 9:30. For grades 6 through 12, ensuring instruction and assignments are meaningful, somewhere within the current scope of what they're doing already. And then including elements of instruction to address any special needs of students. And then being aware of a student's access, you kind of have to keep check on that and know your students and what's going on at home. Submitting a Google survey to mark the beginning of their day at 8 a.m. They would just simply log on and check present, submit, and then we would all get a spreadsheet with that information. And then being available, again, this is, I'm sorry, that should say 9:30 to 3, sorry. And submitting an end of the day Google survey after 3 p.m. Sometime after 3 p.m., which would go directly to us too, to say that's the end of the day. And then parents, of course, their job is to verify that student attendance, however that is for that grade. In the lower grades, that's probably signing something and sending it back to school. Upper grades, that's ensuring that your student logs on and does whatever they're supposed to do. Parents are responsible for seeking any clarification that they might need after learning about it. If they have other questions, they need to ask. Informing teachers of that adequate internet access at home, and then just supporting their child at home. If a child's struggling, they need to make sure that they're encouraging their students to reach out to their teachers, because that's what they're there for. And then we have students completing, submitting their work, accounting for their attendance, especially in the upper grades, and then communicating with their teacher if they have any problems at home with that internet access. So here's where we're kind of going out on a limb. This is where we kind of need you guys too. So the Mora Public School Board will forgive the first missed day of any given school year due to a weather-related closure for students. Teachers will make up the 7 hours for the missed day. This traditionally has been what we've done. So when we're having the conversation, and many teachers brought this up, we're like, well, how do we plan for that? Do we just assume the first one is or not? Or I said, well, let's just ask for it, and they can say no. So this is just so we can plan for if we have the first closed day, weather-related, we can just all plan that. Kids will be forgiven, teachers will make it up. And then the second closed day, we would start that 5-day e-learning with those next, if we had 5 days, closed e-learning days. So that would be a change. We would be able to plan on that. And then, of course, if there are no days missed due to weather, then no part of this plan would be executed. We just wouldn't be doing this. So that's what we have right now. And you have it in front of you. So I guess what we would ask for you to do is just kind of mull that over. Read through that document, ask questions. I can get you resources if you want, And if you go on, I can even send some links if you want me to other districts. It's on, so many districts have this now. If you just search e-learning in Minnesota, you'll get a whole list of districts that do this, and you can go and look at their stuff too. So, yeah.
So, is it safe to say, or accurate to say that this draft came from a number of other plans that are out there and
Yes, some of it's unique.
picking and choosing? Some of it
Some of it
came
is
up with?
unique to us, and then some of it, we kind of just took the best of the best and put it in the plan. Yeah.
I just had a question about instructions being sent home with students. Like, if we're closing the school, oftentimes we don't do that until, you know, later in the day, or would there be pre-staged things that
Yep.
take this home and store it in your closet in case kind of things? Is that what the thought is, or?
Yes, and it might look different for different grade levels, mind you. But a really popular thing to do, and if you go on any of the sites, you'll see this on a lot of them, they do like a bingo card thing. And it's a little more generic for like kindergarten versus the upper, like 4th or 5th grade would be more specific to academic content. They're colorful, and a lot of districts send those home at the beginning, at the first of each month in the winter time. So it's more relevant to that month. And we would design these up front, so we would probably give teachers time to put together their bingo cards. And then they would go home at the beginning of the month. Families would have that at home for the little ones. And a lot of times, we know when a weather day's coming, well, we think we do. And we can't plan for 3 days off, however, like we did in January,
She
but.
wasn't looking at anybody.
You don't point at me there.
I wasn't.
It's our best guess.
But many times we think we know when it's coming, so we would just make sure kids have what they need. We'd probably send home a reading packet, you know, extra stuff with them. But they would have these bingo cards. Our 2nd grade teacher, Mrs. Gert, her son did that this year in Princeton. So then she was able to tell us about that. I don't know if any of you were at that meeting. Yeah. And like, she emailed me on the snow day when she was doing her bingo card with her son. And they had, I think they had made cookies. And then one of the assignments on there was to make a tent with your parent and out of whatever it was. And so she was making a tent in her living room with her son. And there's just a lot of stuff like that as family related things too for the younger, her son's in 1st grade. So those are the kinds of things that those kids would do. So anyway, it's kind of fun.
I had that same question, and it was also related to the issue of limited or no internet connection with those students who declare that they don't have sufficient internet. Get theirs ahead of time, or would they be in that category then, that you have 5 days to turn in an assignment and it might be done after this?
There's 2 things. So if we kind of know and we can plan ahead, then it would be the responsibility of the teacher to send some kind of
To have it there.
The textbook
in the event
and
that we
paper.
close at 9 o'clock the night before or something.
Yeah, and they would send that home with that student, some kind of paper version would go home with the child so that they can do whatever the other kids are doing electronically, they'd be able to do it at home. They would have time to make that up. The second thing that one of our 6th grade teachers brought up, you can also, he had it all figured out. He is going to have kids download it, not have it be on the internet. He's going to have them download it onto their computers before they leave, if he can plan that we might close. And so all kids would just have it on their computer. They wouldn't have to go on the internet.
That's what I read about several school districts
Yep.
do it that way.
That's what Mr. Wright said he's going to do.
And
I thought that
that's
was
all
great.
good and well as long as we're able to anticipate that there's a likelihood of no school tomorrow.
Yeah, and if
Don't
not,
always have that.
then we would allow those kids to do that, give them time when they come back to school to do whatever it is. And it should not be an overwhelming amount of work on those days. It should be some kind of review or something in the current scope of what they're doing, so they can do it independently at home.
thank you.
Sure.
We will ponder it and bring it back next month, so thank you very much, Beth.
Could I ask one more?
Yes?
Sure.
Teachers will make up 7 hours of the missed day.
That's what we do now.
Would that be parents and all
No.
staff included?
Not
or-
typically.
We do
Or
that.
they have the option.
They will be given, they will be offered work to do to make
Yeah.
that. It may not be 7 hours.
Because it just says teachers on
Yep.
here, so I thought I should ask.
That's what we did this year as well. So bus drivers, custodians, food service, everybody's been offered their amount of work. With the paraprofessionals, about half of them have taken it up on us, and the other half have not.
Perfect, as long as there's it's in place. That's all I was concerned with. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, so then I said that will be back on the agenda for consideration of approval next month. All right, we are to our first open forum, and a couple of requests here, so I'll call on Jackie Stevens.
Hi.
Hi.
Daryl and I happened to just check back, so we had the date correct, but we were both on the repair, renovate, remodel, whatever the ours were, task force. And our last meeting for that was December 19th. And so it's now been over 4 months since we've had that last meeting. And since then, I have had days in my classroom where it's been 55 degrees, followed by 2 days later when it's been 75 degrees. I had my faucet replaced this week because it had leaked all over and started rotting underneath my sink in my classroom. I have 2 new leaks in my ceiling, so I now have nice stains on my ceiling tiles. Our needs are not going away at the high school, and I know that our task force did not have super clear-cut recommendations. Almost gave 2 entirely different reports, one that was from the consultants and one from the majority subcommittee that came ahead of time and reported. And so I don't know what you do with that information, but I just encourage the board, am curious about if there are plans to move forward with a plan to do something to address the fact that we still have all these needs at the high school. And 4 months since that committee completed its work, inconclusive as it may have been, we still have those needs and need those to be addressed.
Thank you. The simple answer to your question about do we have a plan to do something, yes. We just don't know what, but your point is well taken. That was the easy part. But I guess where I was also going to go, or what I was going to add was, please stay involved, and we need as much input as we can get along the way, so, thank you. Daryl?
Well, as Ms. Stevens said, I was also on the task force, and after spending a vast amount of time in multiple meetings, really looking at this building here and the needs that it has, as we've looked at for a while, and personally looking at it more closely, they're endless. Just looking at it structurally, which I don't understand a whole lot about, but I see all of these needs and recognize the studies that have been done. But educationally, that's what I'm really concerned about. And looking at the dollar amount of what it would cost to repair structurally this building, but then also ensure that we provide the best educational environment we can for our students, that gets really, really expensive according to the data that we have. So I kind of have the same question, which you've kind of answered, Karen.
We don't normally answer any questions, but that was so easy that
Yes.
I thought I could give you that much information.
As a middle school teacher, I'm an endless advocate for our middle schoolers. That time in their life is just incredibly important for their future. They're not the little kids anymore. They're not the older kids. They're stuck there in the middle. And I would like to advocate, which I've done since I've started here, for a true middle school area. That these kids are together, we can build community, for their emotional development, for their educational needs, for the whole piece. A true middle school, I think, would just be absolutely wonderful for our students, our community, for the whole piece. I guess that's all I have.
Thank you, and like I said to Jackie, continue sharing and offering that input because you speak from where you are. That's your area, and I've seen plenty of evidence to of success with the middle level format and how it is beneficial to the students. So, yeah, appreciate it. Points well taken, and we will be working away. So, all right. Anybody else? That's all the requests I have. Is anybody else here to comment or address the board? If not, we'll move on. All right. So, consent agenda. Any requests to remove any items from the consent agenda? If not, a motion is in order to approve the consent agenda as presented. A motion.
Second.
Motion by Tammy, second by Scott. Would like to acknowledge and thank Devleen retiring at the end of the school year for her years of service. I believe that's the only retirement request we're approving this evening. A rather long list of gifts and donations, so bear with me. I'm going to read through those quickly as we accept those. Try to lump them a little bit. Town and Country Insurance, there are a couple there, $200 for homeless and highly mobile, as well as $1,000 for their scholarship. A number of Mora Education Foundation grants or donations, $399.97 for everyday speech. $3,333 for imagination literacy. $1,417 for mental health. $5,000 for virtual reality. It's Macaulay, so it must be something in her agriculture area, I'm not sure. But another one, $779 for Otto's Tool, and $1,000 for the rack here at the high school. And finally, Mora Education Foundation, $62.91.90 for the boss.
It's a laser.
Mr. Norby, I don't know that's scary, but I'm assuming it's for the
It's a
shop.
laser engraver.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
These were a lot of fun to do.
Just saying, we really appreciate all of these. Then a donation by one Obermiller Nelson Engineering, $650 for robotics, Midwest Dental, $200 for robotics, ICS Consulting, $650 for robotics, and SAC, an in-kind contribution of posters for the health office. So we gratefully acknowledge those gifts and donations. And anything else? Do you have any comments, Mr. Schultz, on any of the
No, I just think
personnel
that
or-
the donations this month are just unbelievable.
Yeah.
Over $20,000 worth of donations. The Mora Education Foundation continues to help us with some of these innovative and new things that we can't normally afford in our budget, so that's much appreciated. As well as we had a number of people that pledged towards our robotics program also. And so that's just fantastic.
It must have been a lot of fun. A fun meeting.
It's a great group. Yeah, it is a lot of fun. And I mean, the Otto tool, that's for new scanner. The virtual reality is for doing virtual tours of not only farm implement or farm pieces, but business pieces that include in farming. So a lot of great things. And that 3,333, that's an ongoing one that's going to take place over the next 3 years. So,
I was wondering at that dollar
the
amount
dollar.
if that was.
That's why, because it's every year for the next couple of years, so.
And I'm sorry, I should have thought of having you elaborate from the get-go.
Oh, well,
MEF.
And if you have any
would
questions
know,
on any of
so.
those, yeah, I mean, it's a great, fun group, and please let others know that it is available. There's, we just had a meeting on Monday, and there's still about $30,000-ish for grants to be given out yet, so.
Wow.
We are trying to be in that innovative category, so, it's not just to go out to supplement the school, but to bring those innovative ideas to the school and to the community. It's not just school stuff.
Great, thanks, Bill. Okay, we have a motion to approve the consent agenda. If there's no further discussion, all in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion passes unanimously. All right, next item is consider resolution non-renewing probationary teaching contracts due to budgetary constraints for 2019-2020. We have a resolution in our packet. Somebody to move that resolution.
I'll move that resolution.
Second, motion by Bob Woods, second by Scott Knoll. Discussion.
It's not a fun thing to
Not an
move.
easy
No,
thing to do.
no, it's not.
And I
It's awful
appreciate
quiet.
your hesitancy and
Yeah, and that's
we're all feeling the
truly
same
out of
way.
that the hesitancy is that these are human beings and valuable to our organization, our community, and our kids, and it's not an easy decision to make, and it's not made lightly.
Any other discussion? If not, we will vote by roll call on this resolution. So Bob, Jensen?
Aye.
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 Right, with that, the resolution passes unanimously with 5 voting in favor, 0 opposed, and 1 board member absent. All right, board reports. Administrative update, board members. Meetings.
I've got a couple. First one, East Central Regional Development Commission. Met last, actually this Monday. The biggest thing for us is basically there's a Safe Path to Schools, there's a grant that ECRDC is a part of, and there's 5 schools for sure in it. We believe we have 10. If we get 10, then we have a full-time staffer that can work with all of those participating schools in seeking out safer ways to walk and bike to school. What may come into that, the other part that I like is it can also address some physical concerns, flashing lights and different things like that. That grant went in April 12th. We have not heard back yet, but we have a very good possibility that that's going to come in. And do it. There's lots of different things that go on, through the ECRDC, but that was one in particular. The other part with that is the new southern, I'm the northern school district rep. The southern school district rep is Carrie Levitsky out of Cambridge by Sandy, and she was sitting next to me. I know Carrie from our C meetings and that, and the amount that they had to cut, this year. I mean, we all take it as saying, these are 6, names of people, and they had $2.5 million in cuts, and she just said, oh my goodness. But we're also both on the same page of what can we do through the state to try to get a more stable source of income instead of just the, property, values. And it's always fun to say, well, hey, Cambridge and Sandy say, well, we're a low property wealth district, and we look at them going, but at the same time,
Relative.
Iowa looks at us and goes, and it's one of those things, it's all relative. I know, as for instance, the Walmart, Menards, Target, all those things, guess what? They depreciate. As they depreciate, their tax burden goes down because they have less, which then puts it more out. The other thing, obviously, I hear about that on a yearly basis and get firsthand information. And so it is there, and there's certainly, while it's bigger than ours by a long shot, it's still not in comparison to others, so we are all the same things. Which leads into the C, this last one was right after our storm day. And, yep, Thursday wasn't bad, but Friday, the roads were just bad enough, so we did not, attend that one, but we do get updates on, weekly basis, monthly basis. The biggest part is the House passed, the $900 million increase in funding. That's obviously only part one. The second part is what will the Senate do?
Hard part.
Yeah, the hard part. And it is still the push to equalize all that funding, and get more out to us in the rural parts, so.
I attended one meeting in ECMEC. The biggest thing there was St. Francis is totally out of ECMEC now, but Isle School District is fully in. I did ask the question if there was a financial impact to the organization by allowing somebody else in, and I was told at the meeting it was very minimal. So that was good news. Then there's a new superintendent from Forest Lake that attended the meeting, correct?
Forest Lake isn't in that, correct?
Sorry, North Branch.
North Branch.
And he asked a lot of questions, so it was kind of nice to have that review. I mean, he asked a lot of questions throughout the evening, so that was really, really good. And that's all I got.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, Molly, student board member report.
So 2 meetings ago, Mr. Baki came into the meeting and talked about the newest logo design. And I unfortunately was not there, but the other students, they didn't have any complaints about it, and they were actually really excited to get going with it and start having a new logo to wear and having apparel for. So I think they're very much so on board and excited about that. The MCA's student council covered all the posters in classrooms, went around and colorful paper and just made sure that no information was showing for the MCA testing. The big thing right now we have going on is getting ready for our talent show, which this year is the Masked Singer. We're going to have, that's our like spring pet fest, so to say, so we can honor spring sports. We are having teachers sing for the Masked Singer, and we're going to have captains from each sport be like the judges and guess who these teachers are and know their clues, and they're also going to talk about how their sport is doing and just give an update to the school on how the sport is. So I think that's one of the biggest things we're looking forward to, and crossing our fingers it goes well because it's something really new, but
Sounds like it should generate a lot of curiosity and interest.
Everyone we've told has been, really? What? Okay. So I think.
What's the date?
May 9th.
Okay.
So coming up soon. And then after that, on May 10th, I guess, is the Last Chance Dance. And that's the last dance of the school year, 7 through 12. And we're getting our DJ from Formal back, and a lot of people are really excited about that because he was very popular. So we're hoping to get a lot of kids back for that dance. And then the only other thing, like big thing coming up in school is prom, which is next weekend. So that's one of the things students are really getting excited for and really waiting for the good weather for. So
At least it's not this weekend.
Oh, I know.
We'll take our chances waiting, then it will be better.
Oh, and Isaac wanted me to let know he wishes he was here, but the tennis team lost 3-4,
Oh,
but they
they're
fought, so.
good. They did win the one.
They have won one this
Before?
season, but they're having a lot more success in the division this year, so it's good.
And congratulations to Molly and Isaac last evening. They were recognized and identified as students of excellence through resource.
Congratulations, yes, nice job, and we really appreciated you being here and all your work with the student council also, with the excitement you've generated. It's been work to make it a really good years.
Molly just had her last meeting at the Mora Education Foundation too, so she's
Winding down.
winding
Well, you
down.
still have more board meetings, there's still days. You're not done here.
Winding down, not done.
Yeah.
Winding down.
Yes, slowly but surely.
All right, thanks, Molly. And yes, just to let you know, we did approve the rebranding, and I had asked Mr. Baki and Mr. Paula or anybody on the committee involved how you guys were feeling, and they said you would be including it in your report, but that you didn't have any real issues, you know, been fine with it, so we're moving ahead. It's going to happen. Mhm. All right, brings us to activities, community ed.
Okay, well, as you guys know, with the weather, things have been just a little bit hairy with activities. We've got a handful of surrounding schools, they rented the wellness center, for practices, for tennis practice or track practice. So that was busy towards the end of the month. We've been outside for all of our activities this week. I'm not sure what next week is going to bring, but right now, our probably winding up the fields. We have five baseball games going on tonight, 3 softball games. So it was very, very busy. It was pretty cool to see all the different people. We also had track practice going on up there. So there was lots of activity going on up there. Spring production was Cinderella. They sold over 1,000 tickets. Debbie stayed, the matinee went over huge, over 190 elementary kids took advantage of the free passes sponsored by CAP. So CAP does that every year. That's really nice to get those younger kids in here. Community education, we have adult and youth classes going on this spring. We also have classes scheduled for this summer. Right now, currently, we have over 550 memberships for the walking track. On a daily basis, we're still having 2-3 people come in and apply. So that is being used as well. Any questions?
I thought we were approaching 400, and Chris told me a couple weeks ago already we were at 500, and they're coming in every day, which is just amazing.
That's great.
Also, you want to just touch briefly on the early childhood?
Yes. We have been talking about the numbers that we are getting in for 4-year-old preschool. Currently, we have 16 preschoolers on a 4-year-old waiting list. And so last week, or was it this week, at the Community Ed Advisory Board, they approved us to add another class for this coming year of 4-year-old preschool. We talked with Brenda and Randy. They have a classroom for us because we are downsizing our 6th graders. So right where those double doors are, there's another classroom right there that we are going to plan on utilizing that room. We're going to try to get other things scheduled in there. Carrie and I spoke with the preschool teachers right after the boards that day about what else could we put in that classroom instead of letting it sit empty 2 days a week. We're talking about an all-day 3-year-old class, Tuesdays and Thursdays, putting in there. We have been asked about that. From my understanding, Zion does it, and some people are going there because they have all day. So we did have registration come in, but we're working on a plan to get another letter out to see if we can get that 3-year-old class room going to. So that way we can be utilizing that class 5 days a week.
What I didn't realize the parents are telling us is that with that a half-day preschool, they have to pay their daycare a full day, and they have to pay a half-day preschool. So if we offer a full day, then we'd have a much better chance of students.
What would be the break-even number, the minimum number, do you think that we would need?
I think we run about, is it 16, 17 per class?
Right now, we're full at 20 in the classes, so it would be nice to bring that number down a little bit. Right now, as of today, there'd be 18 in one class, 17 and 17.
How about the 3-year-old all
The
day?
3-year-old, they're looking at maybe 15, 16, somewhere in there. Yeah, we just met on Tuesday, that's why none of this was in there. And we're still looking at possibilities of what to do. The pathway grants and stuff, we're confident that that will cover our expenses. Mr. Schultz asked us to get that in the budget.
That will come back to June.
Anyway, we're excited about that. The preschool teachers and Carrie's put in a lot of work with that too, so.
Thanks, Chris. Transportation, buildings and grounds. Mr. Bennett.
Transportation is crazy busy. Gail's been trying to get recruiting drivers and things of that nature, plus all the cancellations and weather. She's been scrambling, but so far we've been holding on. So, otherwise, it's been fairly quiet. There's nothing major movement going on down there. Buildings and grounds, as you remember last month, that radon thing was a high priority. We got that second test done and it was just fine. Started out with those bags that hung in February with 17.6 picoculars or whatever per liter or whatever it is.
Say that again.
And now that's a high, everything over 4 we have to retest. The second time we did it, it was an inaccurate test. Somebody unplugged the machine. We did it the third time and it was 0.5. So we're fine on that. So that's good relief. We have bids open for a roof replacement, the smaller roof right above these classrooms above us and the hallway above us, as well as some repairing over by the 89 area around the rooftop units. Bids came in very favorable, and they will be starting on June 3rd, even though we have school. The reason the bid was as low as the contractors, they had 1 week to fill, otherwise their summer was booked up. And so we're gonna have cranes and stuff here the last week of school, but it's only affecting 2 classrooms for the most part with the heavy noise and stuff, so we'll get through it. Other than that, we've been busy repairing sinks in classrooms and doing all sorts of stuff, so if you have any questions, let me know.
All right, thank you. So, high school principals update.
Yeah. I just wanted to recognize and say thank you to the Kane County Sheriff's Office. We have Deputy Strum here. That's a great resource. But Mr. Jeff Anderson over at the Dispatch Center, who's also the emergency manager for Kane County, he has become a real big ally and partner with trying to utilize all of us as one resource. So to just kind of use the intellectual property of the school and the Sheriff's Department to talk about how do we enhance our radio systems, who do we have as connections, how can we make our 2 systems maybe one day talk together so we can just use our resources as a community versus an entity within the community. So we had a meeting, Mr. Knutson and I, went very, very well. Look forward to working with the Sheriff's Department. They have, wow, just a communications guru, so we look forward to working with him and looking to see if we can partner in the future to bring some neat things to more schools that we need in terms of just everyday communication, but also if there's ever an emergency that we need to work with law enforcement as well.
I have just 3 quick things here. Pretty jealous of our travel club right now over in Italy. Not only are they seeing Venice, Florence, Pisa, Rome, Pompeii, they're doing extra fun things like glass blowing demonstrations, gondola rides, the Colosseum, Vatican museums. So really a nice experience for some of our students. I'll pass that around here so you can peek at that. Also, Ms. Osterdyke mentioned Cinderella. Chris Jacobson, our director, he sent out an email today just letting us know how our students did. This is pretty amazing. For those of you who don't know, we entered our spring musical in the Spotlight Education Program. And what that means is they sent out 3 to 5 evaluators and coaches to kind of work with our students and critique us. He said there was a 19-page critique that was sent. But the good part is we had a ton of awards. We had 8 different recognitions here. The acting performance by an ensemble, we received an honorable mention. Overall performance by an ensemble, also honorable mention. Costumes, honorable mention. The overall technical team, outstanding. Grace Harmon received an evaluator shout out, as well as Leah Kerr. And then Mark Waxlax was honorable mention, and then Britta Williams, as Cinderella, she received an outstanding. So one neat part that comes from this is Mark Waxlax and Britta Williams, since they received honorable mention and outstanding, they're eligible to perform in June here as part of the Spotlight Award Showcase at the State Theater in Minneapolis.
Wow.
Proud of those guys.
It was a great production.
Yeah, good turnout too. And then we already kind of talked about this, but I'm going to pass this around. I was lucky last night to spend the evening with 5 of our very best and brightest students. Molly, Drew Elvejim, Isaac Ballmer, Wilson Kruger, and Addie Hawkins at the Student of Excellence Banquet. We had a nice dinner and a great keynote speaker. So, thank you.
That's it for high school, so we'll move on to elementary then.
We had our kindergarten roundup, which was a lot of fun. It always is. Lane and Bree did a lot of work, pre-work, and then during that night. Students, the parents are registering, so then the students do a project. They get a free book. Cookies and milk were served, and so we do some family things. We had 83 registered students by the time that was over, which is really great. Lane's got pretty confidence on some others, so at that time we're fairly confident with a 99 number for kindergarten next year. Of course, families move in and out from now until then. As of Tuesday, her number was about 103 because she keeps working it. And so
It sounds so much better than 99.
doesn't it? Yeah. So we continue to look, and she's working the phones and trying to get families in. And so our goal is, by the middle of May, we want to make sure that we have a good, solid registration like in the system. We're ready to go. So yeah, that sixth section of 110 looks pretty far away right now, but you never know. We could get a lot of movement.
MCA testing, as we mentioned, is just wrapping up for reading and math, and science will be next week. It's gone well so far. Students and staff have done a great job, incredibly flexible with our changes in our schedules throughout the testing time. I wanted to give a shout out to Mrs. Klons was the classroom that was picked for the audit, along with Debbie Anderson was the proctor that was in there, and I think they had a lot to do with how well we were received from our audit as well.
And Mrs. Klons is a first-year teacher.
I was gonna say,
First year
she's-
teacher, yeah.
But she's cool.
Clearly.
Overall, it's gone very well. We have some solid scores. We don't know what the state scores are, so that's how we compare those in August, but we have a good foundation as we finish up.
There's a couple on the second page. We have a couple cool things coming up. That Mobile Ninja Warriors. Please come if you can. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. And then our Native Pride dancer lessons are coming up. We're including 7th grade now. Also with that, we did 2nd grade last year, and we are expanding that, so that should be pretty neat.
Super great. All right, thank you. So I think we are to superintendent's update.
Okay, I did mention already the representative from MDE being here, and I think it was about 7:30. I think Darcy said about 7:20 that he arrived. Was looking for the principals. They weren't available. She texted me at 7:30 and said, "What do I do?" And just respond. So I did meet with her at the end of the day, and in most cases, those type of auditors, when they come in, they're there to help. They're there to take a look and see how things are going and what we're doing. And Darcy is very thorough and very detail-oriented, and so every question that he asked about, where's this, what's that, this cabinet's locked, she was able to answer. But it was a very stressful 3 hours from her, talking with her at the end of the day. The bid docs for the tennis courts and parking up at Mora Elementary have been completed, and so they are available. Their first ad will be in the paper this week, and we're looking forward to having that start somewhere around the middle of July and being completed by the middle of September. The anticipated timeline for the Forest Avenue project, which is the one that's right on the south side of the bus garage, is going to run from approximately July 1st to August 30th. That street is going to be completely shut down and tore up. They're not only going to take off the road surface, they're going to rip out the curb and gutter and take 3 feet of subsoil out from the stoplights all the way to Lake Street, which is 1 block off of Union. So we'll have no access to the bus garage from the south. Everything will have to come to the north. They did tell us that if the project, for some reason because of weather, goes long, they will make accommodations for us around the middle of August, that they'll have subsoil back in place so that we can go out to the south versus bringing the buses up through all of the student congestion that we have the end of August and then into the first part of September. So hopefully, weather-wise, that moves along well. I think it was about a year ago I talked to you about the sale of a lot or lot and a half over here on the south side of the bullpen, and that just seemed like it was never going to happen. And then just all of a sudden things started to click and everything fell into place. I wasn't exactly sure what to do when things were happening so fast. I'm very glad that Kelly was there and helped guide me through that process of getting a title search company on board, and they got it all completed. I signed the papers on the Thursday before Good Friday. They closed on Good Friday, and we had a check on Monday. So that property is sold, and so you'll probably start seeing a lot more action over there on that entire property because the whole thing was closed on Good Friday. We have had our 5th winter-related school closing on Thursday, April 11th. As you alluded to earlier, there was a projection of 14 inches of snow that we didn't get. And even as late as 4 o'clock in the morning on Friday morning, they told us we were going to get 10 inches by noon. National Weather Service had started bombarding us from Monday. Tuesday, this was high confidence. They were so sure it was going to come. I didn't close school until I went home Wednesday evening and watched the news, and they showed 230 some accidents down in the metro area, and they showed the projection that whole thing was moving north. Well, it kind of split. It just kind of missed us. And so when I got up Thursday morning, and my first thought was, oh my goodness, we're going to look pretty cool. The second thought was, I'm really glad that we didn't get that storm that was projected. But you know, we did end up with about 4 or 5 inches of sloppy wet snow by Friday, and so it is what it is. I am recommending that we do the same with that day that we do with have done in the past with the first day, that we offer it to staff on a flexible makeup, and that we forgive it for students. With that, we'll still have, based on our 172 calendar days, school days, we'll still have 168 days, which does meet the 165 minimum. And I really don't see a value of adding another staff development day or another student contact day at the end. So that is my intention, and if you have a problem with that, I can certainly change that, but that's my recommendation. We did have a local complaint concerning the audio quality in the main gym. A community member came forward after the winter sports season was over with, a parent that said that he had been to most all the gyms in the area, as well as our conference, and that he felt that our audio clarity in the gym, he just plain can't hear anything. He can't understand anything. And he asked if we would be willing to take a look at and move forward with some type of improvement, and if so, that he would be willing to contribute financially as well as some other community members. And so we did, had Chip and Shane met with Brian Ashworth, who came in, and that total project, with all of the recommendations they have, we found that some of the stuff had been moved to the auditorium, some of the stuff was not where it was supposed to be, some of the stuff was the wrong type of stuff. Total project was $15,000. They are going to donate $5,000 towards that project, so it'll cost about $10,000. And our first opportunity to test that out with old people in there will be graduation. And so. Well, I've never really worried about my welcome, and I don't think the students really worried about their speeches because nobody could really hear what they were saying except for a couple of things. But we're hoping to have perfect sound quality.
So I'm supposed to worry.
Well, I told Mr. Nelson that he's going to have to actually hear your speeches prior to you giving them now, because previously we didn't really have to worry about it. And I asked the students one time here a couple of years ago, I said, so what did you think of my presentation? I was kind of proud of it. He said, I don't know, you just stopped talking, so we all clapped. We couldn't really tell what you were saying anyways.
Right.
So hopefully we'll have a much clearer sound system in there that will work much better, and we'll get our first opportunity to try it under full load at graduation.
Including air conditioning with that?
Well, you know, that's a new project. If there's a complaint, I guess we can take a look at that too.
Can I go first?
One thing that I had that I was going to add was the 550, I thought it was 550 community member applications that we've had for the Wellness Center. Over and above that, we have 500 through the hospital, and we have 300 through the school district. So that 550 is 550 additional community members over and above the hospital and the school staff. So that is really, truly amazing. And Chris was telling me this spring, you know, with this weather helped us out there. I think we were having 2 and 3 and 4 people every single day coming in that were signing up for applications for that. And then one other thing that, and it was brought up by a couple of staff members earlier, one thing that I don't have, and I'd like some type of clearer direction on what you would like me to do, or what the next steps would be as far as our facility goes. We started the task force, I think, in January of 2018. We had all kinds of things happen during that process. We got to the end. Earlier, Jackie called them the majority. I don't like that name because they were never the majority, so I call them the splinter cell. The splinter cell group broke off, and they came in and tried to address the board with their recommendations, and it was 2 or 3 or 4 people. It certainly wasn't the majority. Also sitting through the work session and the board meeting, we heard from some staff members, but we also heard from some community members that very specifically didn't feel that it was the right thing to do to put additional dollars, of significant dollars, into this building. So then, from my perspective, then what do we do next? What would you like me to do? Would you like more information? Do you want another work session? What would you like to do? I think we heard that there were about $42 million worth of needs here at the high school. The recommendation that came was as to the options that were discussed were to, move forward with $42 million worth, or to move forward with half of that now and half of that 5 years from now, or what should we do next? The things that Jackie talked about, I walked up through this hallway up here, and we are going to replace this piece of roof. It leaks like a sieve. There's all kinds of ceiling tiles down with the thawing and the rains that we've had. There's just continuous issues here. So with your approval, we'll put major investments into this building. But I also don't want to spend taxpayer dollars that are going to be considered a waste if we're going to be doing something else in the next 1, 2, 3, 4 years. So I'd like some direction from you, what you would like. If it's more information, if it's more, whatever it is that you need, if you've got some direction you'd like to point me in.
Just personally speaking, we got a bunch of information. We've had a ton of information. We had with the presentation from ICS. What I feel like we've had all that given to us, we haven't met as a board to kind of process that and get together on a clear vision for it. So I'd like to have a work session.
I think it's time, and I feel that was now 2 months ago, and initially it took us some time to process or digest what was presented. And I think we've all, I'm assuming, no doubt, all spent quite a bit of time thinking about it in our spare time. And we continue to get, more information trickling in. I guess I'm starting to consider more seriously the options that we really do have. I think they're becoming more. And then, it's this or it's that, and it's not. There are things in between. And so I'm ready to schedule a work session or put it on the agenda for the board meeting. What are your feelings on how should we meet? A work session?
I prefer a work session.
I prefer a work session.
Okay.
And I guess I would like, through ICS, just even, we're throwing around some numbers of new, but of saying, I'd really like to look if there's a way to take that 52 million, is there a way, what would it, what is the lowest number, but still I want quality. I mean, I don't want to just have blow-up buildings, say, hey, we can throw this up for 3.4 million, and but what can we get that's going to last us, that is the best investment dollars? Again, I do not want to waste our tax dollars. We're tax-paying citizens. I don't want to have, I want every one of our students to have every opportunity that they can, to to be out there to invest it and
Seems
invest
like
it.
there are, it's becoming clear that there are some opportunities out there to end up with a pretty good project and still leverage a significant
Yes.
amount of.
And the sooner we do that,
That's the key
the
to
sooner we do that, the more that it is.
And if you could get some clarification for me, I keep on hearing 42 million. I saw that in your newsletter thing, in the paper thing. But I thought it was a lot higher than that they didn't give us the numbers.
It was 47 million, including.
It doesn't include the
The road.
street, the road.
Right,
Yeah,
42 but to
million
make
was
our
for
kids
the
safe,
building.
we gotta take care of
Right.
that.
Right.
So I don't wanna keep on saying 42 million
Yeah.
then, if it's
Not-
closer to
Yeah.
50 million.
I think we realize that
Yeah.
doesn't take in
But
that, but we need to
I
be
keep on
clear
saying
and-
42
yeah,
million, and
yeah.
it kinda bugs me, because I thought it was closer to
The
47.
caveat's always
47.
been there where I've seen the 42 million,
Yeah.
however, that doesn't
Yeah.
include the safety
Because I
issues,
wanna,
so,
if we're
yeah.
gonna do something, we gotta make it all safe,
Well,
not
Yes.
that's
just the
right.
school, but,
The 42 million does not include a number of things.
because I know you asked numerous times for them to clarify.
Yeah, and that 42 million is this building alone, and it doesn't include all of the educational adequacy within
Right.
the classrooms and moving education forward. It's just to, change out the windows, make it more energy efficient, fix the roofs so that they don't leak, and a number of those types of things.
Doesn't change the size of the classrooms, and I guess I was surprised that there would still be things within the science department there that are not educationally
Well,
adequate
since
by
we
our
did our
standards.
first educational adequacy, it's been a number of years. Would you like me to survey the staff to try and get some concept from them, not just from the, 4 or 5 that come to the board meetings, but from the staff in general, of what their view is or their vision, so that we have more information to work with from there.
Isn't that already in motion through ICS?
I think the key to anything going forward is to have all the staff on board with this.
Right.
So the
What are
more
we
that we
doing?
can get their input, the better off we're gonna be. So I would be all for getting any and all input from staff.
Then I think that there's some additional things that could be looked at if we're going to open that can. We've been pretty much focused on repair and renovation of this building. If we're going to open that can of the potential of addressing all the needs, if we're going to open the can of addressing the potential of something new up at the other site, I think there's also a possibility or a potential of, I don't know, what it costs to build a middle school. But if we were to lay this out in phases, one of the things that when the consultants were here, they talked about doing, half now and half in 5 years. Is that something that could be looked at as well, or should be looked at?
Very realistic.
A middle school type concept, and what that would cost, along with some Band-Aids here for 5 years, and then the next phase. Or, it doesn't have to be all or nothing. I think there's a number of things that we could do that could be in between.
Right, and I think from a disruption standpoint, to do something like that in phases out at a different site would make a tremendous amount of sense. I think every option should be on the table.
Okay. So would you like me to get that information as well? Pull together some potential intermediary options, since working with Von Dirks as the architect that we've worked with for a number of years, he's got some numbers of what a high school would cost. But we could also then take a look at what some of those intermediary pieces would be.
Yeah, whatever information you can pull together and would use.
And we know we're gonna have to be innovative, creative with this moving forward.
Okay. So I'll survey the staff and talk to Vaughn and get some more information on intermediary options. And then we'll have a work session. It's
Time in
going to
May?
take me 2 to 3 weeks to pull that together.
Otherwise, if we need to have a work session before the board meeting too, that will work. However, whatever time you need.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
But we won't try to set a date until we know.
Yeah,
Well,
let's-
it's gonna take at least 3 weeks, so we're talking almost the next board meeting anyway.
Yeah, well,
Are
2
you,
to
are
3
you
weeks.
suggesting the
It-
day of the board
It kind of
meeting?
depends on how
Yeah,
quickly
because
Vaughn
we
can
haven't
turn
done
that
it.
around as well.
Is what? Are you suggesting that one option would be to schedule a work session early that day? The day of the board meeting? Something to think about.
Yeah, let's get a timeline on what you think you
Yeah.
get information back. And
If not.
Big piece of it will be determined upon how long it takes for Vaughn to turn something around like that. I know he has the numbers for the full high school, but if we're going to take a look at some things in between, it might be a week, it might be 2 weeks. I don't know what he's got on his.
Not rushing you. Kind of use the next board meeting as our goal, and if it doesn't happen by then, we'll soon thereafter.
I think I can put together just a few, half a dozen questions, send out to staff on what, what things are like in their classrooms, what educational adequacy what educational adequacy is, and what types of things that they see specifically with their classroom. When we first did that, it was, 7, 8 years ago, and we've had a significant turnover in staff in the last 7 or 8 years, so give us a little fresher perspective, a little bit more perspective. That'd be great.
Thank you. All right. So brings us to the end of the superintendent's report. Upcoming dates, those are there for you to make note of. Correspondence is coming around. Other board business.
Did we need to do something from his report on forgiving that other day?
Oh, I don't think
Do we need action on that?
That'd probably be a good idea. Otherwise, I'll just do it.
I heard it say my problem that's happening.
It's just keep doing it anyway. Because it makes sense what you wrote,
Yep.
so
Yep.
I'll move it if you want it.
Go ahead.
I think that'd be a good idea.
Motion.
We'll second it.
We have a motion by Bob Jensen, second by Scott Rowe, to forward that last school closure day, whatever we called it.
Staff makeup.
Given for students,
Forgiven for
flexible makeup
students,
by
flexible
staff,
makeup.
overseen by their supervisors.
Thank you. Further discussion? All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes
At least
unanimously.
you know I pay attention to what you say.
Okay, any other board business? Second open forum. Anybody like to make public comment or address the board?
I will.
All right, we will.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm Steve Denzine. Some of you guys know me. I have 2 kids in the district. The high school thing, I know we're talking about the different options and stuff. Me personally, I'm still on board with building a new high school. One of the things I want to talk about that, today I was in the high school. I work at the federal prison in Sandstone, Minnesota. One of the things we do is we bring inmates into the Law and U class and to the ALC to share their stories, what they went through. Today when I came in, the inmates made a comment to me about how it feels like there's different schools that I'm walking through as they're walking through the different sections. And all I could think is, yep. The original building of this school was built about the same time that our prison was built, in 1939, give or take. I know the year somewhere close to that. I know there's lots of different options, and we have to look at that given what happened now. It got, in my opinion, derailed when we did the committee. But me as a citizen, I want to see the new school built. That's my opinion on that. The other thing I want to bring up is the ALC itself, because I heard funding's getting cut from the ALC. I don't know if that's true or not, but I think it's a huge mistake. I don't think it should be cut, because those kids that are going through that and going through that trauma, especially given the things I heard today in that class, those are the kids that are going to keep me employed if you cut that funding. Those are the ones, the inmates shared their stories, the kids opened up to them and started telling their stories, their lives at home, and it mirrored what those inmates went through. Denise did a absolutely wonderful job, and she does a lot of work, which I don't know how much credit she gets. But it was moving to me, and to see that, and I think cutting funding for that's a huge mistake.
Just to clarify, Steve, it's not that ALC program, it's the
Okay.
7th and 8th grade, it's the junior high. So yes, that is being affected
But,
by.
yeah,
by
but that's,
Hear what you're saying. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
so, that's my opinion, I just want to make sure that I got her. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for coming.
And the only thing that I will suggest is that you stay involved as a citizen. We appreciate your input, and said it before, keep repeating it. We need all the input and involvement we can get. It's critical. Thank you. Anybody else? Yes. Christine.
I'm Christine Tan. I wanted to personally invite you guys. I am speaking again May 10th, it's a Friday, to the driver's ed class about my experiences. Mr. Elgin has attended, and most of the admin haven't, or most of the high school admin have attended. But anybody that wants to come is welcome to come. It's fifth hour, which is 12:10-ish, I believe. You'd have to check. I'd have to check that part out. But I believe it's about 12:10, the end of first lunch. And then my second thing, I am a member of MEF with Bob, and admin more than anything, and teachers. MEF has mini grants available all through the summer, and they're small. They're small amounts. They're there to help fund the classroom, not for big projects, not for big things. You need whatever it is. I mean, I know teachers have black rugs and whatever, but they're there, and they are very, very unused, very unused. So please spread the word to your teachers. Let them know, your staff. Let them know that there's money there. I mean, it was really fun this last quarter. It was $20,000. It was kind of funny. But yeah, but there's so much money that's not utilized. And our event is the 21st of August. And
What's the number you can go up to on a grant?
there's 3 different types of grants, Bob. There's a Mini, a Pony, and a Mustang. Is that correct?
That's correct.
The Mustang's kind of no necessary limits. The Pony, I think, has to be under 1,000. And the Mini's very mini. It's like $100. But it's, I mean, when you're finding some odds and ends for your classroom, trying to finish it off, but those are only good. Those you can only apply for through October.
It's all on the website.
Yeah.
There has to be
And
some
what was the date that you gave for the?
Wednesday, 21st?
Yes, that's right. Fish Lake Resort.
Oh. Thank you. Thanks, Christine. Appreciate it. Anybody else? Not? Entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second. Motion by Bob Woods, second by Tammy. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? And we are adjourned.